welcome to our podcast, Dr. Diaries Adventures to Ireland. I'm your host, Graham. The aim of this podcast is to showcase doctors' relocation journeys to Ireland. So whether you're a doctor interested in the move or just curious about life in Ireland, this is the podcast for you. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Dr. Diaries podcast powered by Matchmedics. And this week we have our lovely Ibreez joining us as our guest this week to talk all things about her journey to Ireland. Just to give a mini intro on Ibreez before we kick off. Ibreez moved across here to Ireland from Sudan quite a number of years back, and now you're presently working as a minor injuries physician in Laya Healthcare in Limerick. Ibreez, tell us.
Hi, Graham.
Thank you again for joining us on the podcast and sharing your story with our listeners. Tell us a little bit about you and kick us off with your journey here to Ireland.
Okay, thank you, Graham, for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm Ibreez from Sudan, as you said, and I've been in Ireland for the past 4 years. I'm working as an urgent care physician now with Laya. So my journey to Ireland, I actually moved from Sudan to Saudi Arabia at first, but I've always wanted to come to Ireland because for me, I felt like being in Ireland is going to open more opportunities at work experience and career development. So I started my registration since 2017, finished it by 2019. And then I applied for work here. So I've been working in the HSE first for about almost 2 years or year and a half. And
Maybe
then
we can jump in there, Ibreez. The HSE, for anyone who's new to Ireland won't know, is the public sector. So the health service executive. So that's
exactly
where your journey began in Wexford. Am I right?
Yes, in Wexford. Yeah, I was working as an emergency medicine registrar. So I've stayed there for a year and a half, and it was during COVID. So you can imagine first coming to Ireland
crazy time
and
to
immediately
relocate, wasn't
starting. Yeah, it was crazy time. And I think that was what made my journey harder than people who are going to come now, because part of moving to Ireland is just about like, it will be easier when you have like a social network and you start to interact with people and go out and just explore the new place you're coming to. But for me, I just came and I found it was COVID. So it was just work basically. So the first year for me, it was a bit hard because I didn't get to do anything other than work. But
Can
people
we jump back just slightly and firstly ask, Ibreez, what was the initial attraction to Ireland?
So there's a lot of reasons. The number one reason that I think the most people move to anywhere for is the career and financial stability. So in Sudan, the situations were not very stable politically and economically. So I made the decision to move. And then it was to move where? So at first I started in Gulf area in Saudi Arabia, which was great experience. But the problem with Saudi Arabia, there's no such much space for career development. Um, Basically, you cannot move ahead in your position. So the position that you start with, you stay in it. So I worked there for 4 years, and then I knew at one point that I need to move because I hit a plateau. So I decided to move to somewhere else. So again, began the search to decide between what country is going to be the best for me. Ireland is easier with the registration process for us as Sudanese doctors. The pathway for registration is reasonable. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of exams. So for me, it was a reasonable choice to start registration to Ireland. The other thing is that most of the people who went ahead of me, they gave me a positive feedback that it's a more easier culture to interact with than any other European or foreign country. So that narrowed the choices to Ireland, and I'm happy to make that choice.
Right. So then we jump into Wexford, the sunny southeast. Does it live up to its name?
Yes, it does. It's a very beautiful place. So it's by the sea, and they have this great quay to walk with. And but as I said, I didn't actually get to enjoy Wexford that much because it was COVID. Everything was shut down.
Sure.
So the only thing that we used to do is just go by the beach, get a coffee, and just go home. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, very, very different times to now, aren't they? Yeah,
yes,
and that you're a lot more free to
yeah,
explore Ireland
100%.
and that. So that was your first step in your Irish journey, the first stop off being in Wexford as an emergency medicine registrar. For everyone listening, where did we go from there?
So I worked in Wexford, as I said, for a year and a half, and then I got an email from you for a job in Laya Healthcare. So I applied, and I'm very thankful to make this transition because I've been in Laya now for 2 years and a half. It's a great work environment, and I'm happy there. So I've only moved to Laya, and I've been here since then.
Tell me, how does the job compare? So you're in Wexford as your first job in the public sector. You're seeing everything from pediatrics to geriatrics and everything fun and exciting in between in an emergency medicine setting, and then you're moving to the private sector, which
Yes.
Leia operates in an urgent care or minor injury setting. What are the two or three key differences that you found between the two?
My main reason to transition, to be honest, but I had a struggle with the night shifts. So
Sure.
in
Okay.
in yeah, in the ED settings, it's a shift work, it's a roster. So you might be working morning today and then tomorrow you have an afternoon and then it's nights. So which was fine. I'm used to it, but at that point, my family circumstances was I had two kids and they were very little. They were like 6 months and 3 years. So the night shifts was my main problem because we would do like four consecutive shifts, and I with the kids I wouldn't be able to sleep through the day and then go ready to work. So it was a really struggle for me to be stay focused at work while minding my kids
Did you do it?
during the day.
How did you do
Oh,
that,
I don't
Ibreez?
know. I don't know.
We've known each other for quite a while. I've got two kids now myself too, and just the juggling work and kids. I have the privilege of being able to work from home, but you were in the hospital on
Yeah.
on your feet for 10, 12 hour days, and then you go back to the kids. How'd you do it?
Yes. To be honest, looking back now, I don't even know how I did it. Like I asked myself the same question because to be honest, I would be like I had a very nice childminder. She's very lovely, but so I would take the kids to her at night, because I'm a single mom, so the kids will not be able to stay home alone. So I take the kids to her house. They will stay with her through the night, and when I finish my shift in the morning, I go pick them up. They're happy, awake, and, and bright.
Yeah,
And I didn't sleep, but I have to stay with them. So I stay with them through the day until the night again, and then I'll take them back to the childminder house and go to work again with no sleep. And I'll do this for four consecutive
wow,
nights. So by the fifth day, I haven't slept for 4 nights. So
how how that's just
I
yeah.
to tell you
Dare,
something,
dare I say,
I
Superwoman Ibreez has to be your middle name.
Well, at one point, I really, when I think back about it, I feel like, how did I do it? Like, because at the moment of it, you just feel like it is what it is. Like, you have to do it. There's no
Yeah,
other option. And that was the main reason because actually working with Wexford Hospital was very good because, as you said, there's a variety of cases. I learned a lot, and it was great. But I couldn't do it. And to be honest, it wasn't safe to the patients, to be honest, to be working there
absolutely. Yeah,
with
yeah.
4 nights of non-sleep. I felt like I'm not going to be at my best ability as a doctor and a service provider in an emergency department. So I felt like I'm going to fall short in that aspect. So I started to think that I need to do something about this. Like I can't keep doing this. And from there it came the change to Leia because with working with the private sector, and this is getting back to your question, that the difference between private and public sector, to be honest, the first aspect is the financial aspect. The payment with the private aspects is more. This is a positive side. Uh, not a negative side, but more of a difference of choices that in the HSE or the public sector, you get to see more patients and you get to move during different departments, if I would say so. You might
Yeah.
be working in emergency medicine and then you'll go to the medicine or pediatrics or whatever, and there's a higher chances to get into a scheme if you're interested in training, which is going to give you chances to be developing more within your career. So I think that's the main difference. But with the private sector, it's a smaller team and it's an easier work environment. And you do learn and develop, but because most of it are smaller hospitals, you don't see much of a variety of patients like the public sector, obviously.
Sure.
But with Leia or most of the private hospitals, you get to do learning courses and career exams, and you get to develop with your education and career as well. But obviously, it's not going to be as expanded as the public system.
You make a very good point there.
Yeah.
The public sector does provide that opportunity
Yeah.
to get onto the training scheme, but then
Yes.
private also has its benefits too. So it makes sense. Going private, the hours are a lot more manageable. It's a lot more family friendly, and that
Yes.
suited you and suits you currently in your
Yeah.
present phase in your life. But it may not suit others, or others might
Yeah.
prefer, okay, I'm happy to go for a lower public sector salary based on the fact that I will have a higher chance of getting onto the training scheme from there. So
Yes,
there's
and
pros and
you
cons in
can
both, and
get to
it's
the
good to
scheme
highlight
if
that.
you're in private sector. You can still go to the scheme, but it is
Yeah,
just the higher chances if you're in public system.
absolutely. Yeah. So look,
Yeah.
pros and cons of both, and it's good to highlight that. And I think it does depend on what someone is looking to get out of that
Yes.
portion of their life, I guess, career wise. So let's jump into, and I had the pleasure of catching up with you in person a short while back in the Limerick clinic. Tell us a little bit about Leia and the setup there, and we can maybe go through the type of patients that you see on a daily basis.
Sure. So Leia is an urgent care clinic. So we basically see minor injuries, small fractures, minor dislocations, minor illnesses like something that's not very severe, not very urgent. So it's not an emergency, but it's more of a minor illness and small traumas clinic. So that's the cases that we see basically. We see a lot of sports injuries, falls, um, flus, chest infection, abdominal pains. Um, these are the most range of the patients that we see. When I started with Leia, it was just starting. I think at that point it was 2 years in operation, but it grew a lot now. We have clinics in Limerick, Galway, Dublin, and they're starting another one in Cork now. So the patients know it more now, and it's I think for Leia it's a great help because the load in the emergency departments is very high, and the type of patients we see in the clinic is what we call category 4 in the emergency department. So they're
Okay.
going to wait for a very long hours when they go to the emergency department. And understandably so, the emergency departments all over the country are very busy, and the triage system there depending on the urgency of the patients. So the type of patients we see might consider not very urgent in the emergency medicine departments, so they will wait for very long hours. So I find it really rewarding and happy when the patients come into our clinic and they say, "Oh my God, I'm so happy that you got to manage me in an hour. I would have waited 8 or 10 or 12 hours in the emergency department because obviously in the emergency department is not going to be categorized as a very urgent condition." Like a small fracture or a small cut wound, or even like a larger cut wounds, we see all type of wounds. But obviously, if the patient is not critically unstable, they're not going to be seen as urgently as in the clinic. But in Leia, we get to see patients within an hour or 2 hours maximum if we're busy, which
Okay.
is very very good. So I feel like it's a good service to be provided to patients instead of sitting in the ED for 12 hours. So I find this is the most rewarding part, that especially with the elderlies and the children, when the moms
Absolutely.
and the families tell us, "Oh my God, we're so happy that we were managed in an hour. We would have like we were concerned that we'll sit in for 8 hours in the hospital with our baby." So
Yeah.
that's very great. So that's I think the best part that Laya clinics provide for the public people.
And I guess to identify that it is quite important in that it is a crucial service that is being provided
Yes.
to the local communities in the different locations you mentioned there. Because otherwise, the alternative is they either go to their GP the following day, or they wait for a long period of time in
Yeah.
an uncomfortable, crowded waiting room in the public emergency medicine department. So you are credit to you and the team across the different clinics providing that reliable, timely service to people who do need it. For doctors coming into the space, would it be fair to say minor injuries is that space between family medicine and emergency? So there's no, unless
Yes.
you're excited about the faster pace of emergency medicine, maybe you
Yeah.
don't have that much family medicine experience, but you want to perhaps go in that direction in time to come.
Yeah.
Would you recommend being in that space right now? Is minor injuries that good middle ground between the two primary care settings?
Yeah. 100%. If it's something that the person is interested in, as you said, if you're not into the fast pace, some people love the adrenaline of the emergency department and stuff.
Yeah,
But if you're looking for something that's more of a work-life balance work condition, that you get to be very helpful to patients and provide a very high quality service, but at the same time, it's not as stressful and as demanding as the emergency department settings, this is definitely going to be a very good choice for the patient, for the doctors who are coming. Because, as I said, it does provide the service, you do provide the help, but on a lower base kind of circumstances, not like the emergency medicine. And the fact that we have one routine, like now it's obviously long hours, but the schedule is we're working for 12 hours from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But the schedule is distributed in a way that you get your rest. We would work for 4 days or 3 days in a week, which is great. So it's not the change of routine that you'd be working mornings and then afternoons and then night shifts. So if it is something that the person is struggling with, like my in my condition, I was struggling with this kind of change of shifts and routines because for my family circumstances, I couldn't adapt to it. This is going to be great because now I can build a routine around my schedule and I can stick by it and no problem. But in the emergency department, it's hard to have any type of routine because your roster is going to be all over the place, obviously. So, and even
sure.
with the studies, to be honest, like even if you're preparing for an exam or you're studying for something, it's easier to have some sort of a routine. You need to sleep in a certain time and wake up in a certain time and
Yeah,
have this kind of time to rest and distribute your studying hours. But with the emergency department, I found it very difficult to have any type of routine because your circadian rhythm is all over the place, to be honest. So
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I can only imagine it. Um, You also shared previously your, I think, very relatable interview story with Leia. If we go back to the beginning of Leia, I'm right in saying you thought you didn't even get the job.
no, I didn't think that I got the job. I remember I think having this job was very strange from the beginning because I remember
Yeah.
very much when I got your email, I was sitting in the hospital, in Wexford Hospital, and it was my last night of 4 night shifts. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know for how long I'm going to be able.
Opportune time there, Breeze. And I didn't know.
Yes,
Maybe it was a mind reader and thought, oh, yeah, this is the perfect
exactly.
time to catch a breeze. Yeah.
Total, and we were totally strangers at that point, and it was just a weird telepathy because I was literally thinking that, like, what am I gonna do, and how I'm going to get to continue doing this. And I got your email, and I remember the first line in the email was along the sentences, along the idea of if you're looking for a more of like a fixed hours work with no night shifts, and I was like, yes, that's what I want exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember that I responded with my CV immediately, like in that place. I was like, yes, I'm very
Okay.
interested, and this is my CV. and you contacted me if you're, I think it was the second day or so. So you contacted me and you're like, okay, we're doing an interviews. And I'm sorry if this is a short notice, but we're having
Yeah.
interviews in about, I think it was 2 days after that. And I was like, yeah, sure. And after I hanged up the phone, I was like, oh my God, my mom is coming from Sudan on that same day. So the interview was set to be at 2 p.m. and my mom is going to arrive at 11 a.m. And I'm going to pick her up from Dublin. And we were in Wexford that time, so it was almost 2 hours drive from Dublin to Wexford. So I'm like, okay, okay, I can do this. I can pick her up from the airport, be here before the interview, and do the interview. So that's what I did. Poor mom. I just grabbed her from the airport
Mums
and I
are
was
great,
running.
aren't they? They're just
Yes,
amazing. Yet they save you
heroes.
when in need.
100%. So I took her from the airport. I was like, okay, mom, I'm so sorry. I have this important interview. When we get home, I'll just leave you with the kids for a few minutes to do the interview. She was like, no problem. We got into the house. My younger son was asleep. We got them from the childminder. He was asleep, and the older son is awake. So obviously, hugs and kisses. I literally didn't stay with my mom at all. I was like, okay, listen, you have to stay with the kids. I'm running to do the interview. She was like, okay, no problem. Don't worry about it. I sat and I started the interview. My younger son was in the room, so my mom didn't want to disrupt me. So she took my older son out into the balcony. Little did she know that the door to the balcony, it has a specific way to open it. It was a bit complicated. I didn't show it to her, but of
Okay.
course. So when she
Yeah.
left to the balcony, the door was shut and they were out in the balcony. Like I have to open the door from inside at this point.
Gosh.
So she's sitting there and it was sunny and bright. It was fine. And the Irish weather, being the Irish weather,
Yeah. One,
starts
one
to
one of
pour.
our drawbacks, I guess, but you've made peace with it, a breeze.
At this point, I made peace with it. So it started pouring, raining, and I'm in the middle of my interview. I didn't pay attention at the moment, but my mom was knocking on the door because the balcony is open and they are there on the rain. So she knocked on the door a little bit, not to annoy me if I'm starting my interview already. And I hear the knock and I was like, is that a bird? Like, what's going on? I can't see from my place. But at that point, I'm already in the middle of interview. I don't understand what I'm like, what, I don't know, understand what's going on. So, um, then my younger son started to cry, and I see my mom. I open like I tilt a bit, and I see my mom and my kid out in the balcony, drenching wet. Like they are
God.
so wet, and they're shaking. And I was like, "Oh my God!" I lost my focus at that point. To be honest, I don't even remember what I said after that point. I was just
Okay.
focused on running to them to get them out of the balcony. And my mom is like 65 years old. She's stuck in the balcony there with my 4 years old child. So I was like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And I lost
Yeah.
my focus, obviously. And Anne, our HR, she's very nice. She heard my son crying and she noticed that I'm being a bit distracted. She was like, listen, I hear
Okay.
your son crying in the background. We're not going to keep you for long. And they just asked me, like, I remember one single question after that, and they're like, okay, we will let you go. We don't want to keep you from your kid. And I was like, yeah, sure, thank you very much. And I literally ran to open my door to my family and ran to my younger son who was crying. And at that point, I felt like there's no way I'm getting this job. Like I was
Yeah.
all over the place. I was obviously not focusing. I don't even remember the questions that they asked me. Like I don't remember anything. So I was like,
Okay.
there's no way I'm getting this job. And I remember my mom was like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, how did the interview went? And I was like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll get better chances. I don't think that I'll get this one, but it's okay. I didn't want to make her feel bad, and she did. She did feel bad. She's like, I didn't know
Yeah.
that the door will not be open. Da, da, da. So I was like, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. And I spent the rest of the day. I remember I texted you or I emailed you that I've done the interview. I don't know how it went. I don't feel very good about it.
Yeah.
And a few hours later, you called me and were like, "What do you mean you're not sure about it? They loved you." And I was like, "They did."
Yeah. Yeah. And they still
Um,
very fondly talk about you. I
but
shared
I
that
think,
story with Anne recently, a breeze, and Anne was again blown away. She didn't have an idea at all. So
yeah.
what an interview disaster you would think
Oh
on the
my
face
God.
of it, but obviously it didn't put you off your game and didn't put you off presenting yourself in the best possible way. So thanks
Yeah,
for sharing that story, because
no
I know
problem.
plenty of people can recall an interview disaster in their time.
Oh, of course. I think
Yeah,
that's the most important thing when you're doing an interview is the understanding that everyone is like Anne was very understanding. She was like, I understand you have kids. I don't want to keep you away from your kids. And she's a mom herself. But sometimes we put ourselves in too much stress during interviews. We want to portray
sure.
a perfect picture, and nobody is perfect. Like if the interviewers felt that you're passionate about your work and you're interested in the job and you're a good person and you have good communication skills, which is very important. I feel like that's the most important thing when anyone is doing interviews for a job is having a good, very, very good communication skills and be genuine about yourself and your skills and your questions and everything, just to portray more of a genuine connection with the interview. And I think most of the people will get it. I'm not saying
Absolutely.
this with any pride, but to be honest, I never had an interview that I didn't get a job for. So I feel
Yeah.
like
Well,
that's the
I think
most
that
important thing because I'm
showcases
always,
your ability to interview a breeze. I think
yeah, I
that's
just feel
your
like the most important thing is just to be yourself. Like, don't stress yourself
absolutely.
over the interviews. Yeah,
Yeah, great interview tips. Thanks for sharing those.
no problem.
If it's okay, I might jump into a couple quick fire questions now,
Sure.
to test your breadth of experience and exposure to Irish life. So tell me, favorite place in Ireland?
Favorite place, Galway.
Yeah,
I love Galway.
Galway. Why?
Yeah, they have this amazing beaches and
Yeah,
the setup of the whole city is between old and modern. Like it has this magic about it. So I love Galway. I love to go there and take my kids there. And they have amazing scenery over the ocean, and people there are very nice. I love Galway. So that's
amazing.
will easily be my favorite place. Yeah.
Galway, and I'm in agreement with you. Galway is one of my
Yeah.
favorite spots. Favorite Irish celebrity, if you can think of one.
Celebrity.
Yeah.
I think it will be Bono easily. Bono is my favorite
Okay.
celebrity,
Are you a
Irish
U2
one.
fan?
Sorry, yeah, you
Right.
too. Rock,
Yeah.
rock and roll. Yeah, I love Bono. And the other thing is I'm into hurling now. So there's this
Okay. Well,
hurling
you're
players.
properly into Irish culture now.
Yes, yes. My friend, my nurse friends there in Laya are teaching me all about hurling and rugby,
Okay.
and they're showing me the
Great.
rules and the players. So there's this player, I think it's from a Limerick team. It's called Aaron something. I remember, I forget his name. So, but he's really good.
Okay.
So
Aaron
yeah,
on the Limerick hurling team. Watch out.
yes,
A
yeah,
breeze is looking for you.
exactly.
We'll jump on to the next one. I wonder, any favorite sort of Irish phrase or slang that when you first heard it thought, what are they talking about here?
Yeah, the Irish language, they have a lot of their own phrases. When I first started in Ireland, I felt like most of the time I'll just go along with the conversation without understanding half of it because they have a lot of slangs. But now I know a few of them. I love that. That was a good crack. So that means
Yeah.
that was great time. So when you meet someone, for us, crack for me, crack was like craziness, like something that
Sure.
like not reasonable.
Yeah.
So when I go out with people and they'll be like, "Oh, let's do this again. That was good crack." I was like, "What do you mean? Like I didn't do anything crazy. We just went out for a meal." So, and then come here always sends me off on the first few days because I thought we will go somewhere to talk, and it obviously the Irish will be like, "Come here," and I'll be like, "Come where?" And they'll be like, "No," they just like mean listen or look or hey, so they'll be like, "Come here, come
Okay.
here."
Great.
So
Okay,
that's
so
the most things. Yeah,
your two favorite Irish snippets. Amazing. Okay, and I guess
yeah.
you mentioned, we both mentioned at the very beginning, you're originally from Sudan. Any particular home comforts where you get on to family and say, "Can you please next time you're over, or can you send me this?" What's your home comfort
Yes,
that you
100,
hold dear?
100%. Yeah, so my most favorite comfort thing is uh, oud, which is basically like a wood that we put into a fire and it creates a scent. It's like just like the candle or something, but it's like a
Okay,
wood that comes from certain trees, and we prepare it in a certain way with certain perfume. So it's very Sudanese traditional thing, and I always tell people to bring me the bahur or oud with them, and the obviously our spices. So we have our own spices that we prepare our meals with. I love to cook,
okay.
so every time someone's coming from home, I tell them to bring me my special Sudanese spices to prepare our favorite meals, our favorite Sudanese dishes. I'll cook one for you one day, Graham.
I'll take you up on that invite,
No
Breeze.
problem.
Great. Couple last bits before we part ways today. If someone listening and watching this today was thinking, I might consider a move to Ireland, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Okay, the one piece of advice, can I say two?
Why not? Yeah,
So, the first thing I feel like people should understand is moving from one country to another is never going to be easy. Even if you're wherever you're going, if you're going to Gulf or Europe or US or whatever, it's not going to be easy. And I feel like I've talked to a lot of people, Sudanese or Arab or whatever, who came and they start immediately from the first or second months to judge their experience that, oh my God, this is so hard. I'm not used to this or I'm not used to that. I didn't expect this and I didn't expect that. And I'd say give it time. And people should have more of a resilience and flexibility when they're moving to a whole different place or different environment and a different culture, because change is not easy, even if it's a good change. So
sure.
it's a good process, but you have to give it time and you have to be more flexible in your experience in order to get to a point of stability and that you know everything. So for me, I think it took 2 years to feel that I'm finally stable and settled and I know what I'm doing and I understand the laws and I understand the culture and I have Irish friends who teach me things. So this takes time. So I feel like people should g- get out of the mentality that the minute you go onto the plane, your problems are solved. It's not that easy. It's going to be hard. Even if you come to a good place, even if you're going through good change, it's going to be, you have to go through these hardships. You're going to miss your home, you're going to miss your friends, you're going to miss your family. So these are all understandable struggles that all of us as people who are coming from abroad we're going through. So just to give it time and don't judge your experience by the first or second month. The
Okay.
second is advice is to set your priorities. So when you're moving abroad, each one of us has its own goals. And when you're moving abroad, you have to always focus on your priorities. This is the only thing that will prevent you from straying away with the changes and the hectic few months that's happening when you first move to Ireland. When you're having your set of goals, why did I move here? Why did I come here? What's my goal? When you meet any obstacles or difficulties or any hardships, when you're going back to your goals and think, okay, what's the main reason that I came here? Put it in your fridge, put it in your on your phone, I don't care. But
Yeah,
always focus on your goals, that's why you came here in the first place. And this will make things easier that as long as on my way, I'm still doing my goals, I'm still achieving them, I'm on the right way. So that's the best two things that helped me through my journey. And I hope that everyone comes with this mentality that I have to have my priorities set and I have to focus always on my goals and be resilient and flexible through the changes because it's not going to be easy, but eventually the reward is great, to be honest. So yeah, that would be my
I
advice to
love
them.
that. And that's amazing.
Yeah,
Resilience and being focused on what are the reasons why you're here, and
exactly.
really, really sticking it out. This has been amazing. We're going to finish up on one last one for you, Ibreez. What's the
Sure.
best part of being here in Ireland for you? What's been the best part of your
Oh,
whole journey?
wow. That's a hard one. But to be honest, the Irish people are very, very lovely, and very friendly, and they're very helpful. Like it's very easy to stop a stranger in the street, ask them about anything, and they'll be very willing to help. And I noticed this from the very first few days. Most of the people who were very helpful for me, and they went above and beyond for helping me, were people who didn't know me. Like
Yeah,
they didn't have this connection with me before I come to Ireland. They're not like close friends or family. They are new people that I've met here who are Irish, and they want to help me because Irish people do understand that we are new, and they understand that it's okay to ask for help, and they will help you. I've never felt judged that I don't know anything, starting from the language or the cultural differences or the places or the laws or the regulations of the country or whatever. So I always ask questions, and this is a very good tip also, that don't be afraid to ask questions, and you'll always find someone who will help you. So it's okay not to know. You're not expected to know anything. And that was
absolutely.
my best part of Ireland, that people here are very friendly, and they're very understanding, and they're very funny, and you can have a chat with anyone in the bus, in the street, while you're waiting for your coffee. You can
Yeah,
always start a conversation with someone, and you'll always have a blast with them.
amazing. And you'll have the
Yeah,
crack.
you'll have the crack.
That's what we're searching out for. Amazing.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, Ibreez, for sharing.
no problem.
What's been a roller coaster of a journey for you, and now you firmly do call Ireland your home, and you and
Yes.
your two kids are here, hopefully for the long term, and you're part of the Irish makeup of who we call ourselves here, being here in Ireland. So thanks again for joining us
Thank
today,
you.
Ibreez.
Thank you, Graham, for having me. It was such a pleasure, and I really appreciate what you're doing. It's very good for people who are coming from abroad to have some sort of an advice and a reference from people who've already went through the same process that they're trying to do. And I want to thank you personally. You've been a great help, and always there for good advice. And even my transition to Leia, you've always been checking on me, helping me. So I'm really appreciating that. So thank you.
No problem at all. Thanks again, Ibreez.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you like what you heard today, please follow wherever you get your podcasts. Want to kickstart your relocation journey? Reach out to the team on our socials at Matchmedics.